Now it's time for Straight on the Point with Jesse T. from some undisclosed location somewhere in the world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Jesse T.
Well. It's good to be back with you as we bring up the microphones nice and loud. Thank you very much. Lee on the wheels of steel, as we used to say. Hey, give me some more volume, Come on, get it up there, man. That's right. See, kick it off that ear so you don't get any feedback in there. Good to have you along. It's the Jesse T Show. We are back here on a beautiful day in Southern California. If you like the rain, I do like the rain, and it's raining hard for the next couple of days, and thankful for that. Of course, really the freeways were easy to manage today. I think everybody was just freaked out and didn't go to work or something because I actually got down here without having to even hit the brakes once down the 405 freeway or driving the Diamond Lane illegal with my blow-up dowel. That's right. I didn't have to do that. And unfortunately, my blow-up dowel has a hole in the rear end, so I don't know. I just keep blowing it and the air keeps coming out. Sort of like me at night when I'm talking in my sleep. The Round Beauty is back on duty on Facebook.com/Jesse Torrero. I haven't got picked up by a CHP yet, that's for sure. I got those tinted windows on the Green Dragon. I'm driving the Green Dragon today. Yes, that's I do name all of my cars. What can I tell you? Because I just like to name my cars. I just like to do that. Hey, we're on Instagram Live at Jesse Torrero as well, and Facebook.com/Jesse Torrero, and also Facebook.com/The Power of Voices. So you want to check us out there as well. And of course, we're on Tumblr, Blogger, Pinterest, live stream, and all those other things. So we're going to get off to that in just a second here. But I do want to mention we do have a couple of things coming up here this weekend that we're going to be out at and checking out. We may have the opportunity to go check out a Burt Reynolds film, actually 3 of his favorite films, and maybe get a little question and answer session with the man himself, Burt Reynolds. And also, we're going to be out there at the Women's March on Saturday. Yes, Jesse Torrero is going to be out there at the Women's March with Moni Swan, who'll be in tomorrow to talk about Tom Bradley's 100th anniversary. If he was still alive, he'd be 100 years old today. He was a good mayor, too, here in Los Angeles. He wasn't bad. He didn't have a lot of controversy, and he tried to do a lot of good things, and he was a pretty good mayor. About 25 years he was the mayor here in Los Angeles. Really one of the last guys that has held that post for that long. So we're going to be celebrating his 100th year birthday in the Women's March up there, and it's going to be a lot of women. So I'm for sure going to have Dan the Man out there to interview a lot of ladies, because Dan the Man, who's usually with me today, but he's a little under the weather. And I promised him, though, Saturday, I got a job for you. Mingle through the land of women who are going to be a part of the march. So we're going to bring that to you and bring me all the good stuff. But right now, as you have noticed on our promos that went out last couple of days, right now we have a very special guest. And I'm going to totally blow her name because she's only told me 6 times. And remember, 7's heaven. I need to know 7 times. But I think I'm going to get it right. I know I'm going to get the last name correct, but I'm going to blow the first name. So if I blow your name, will you smack me?
Yeah.
Okay, just give me a right hand. Bam! Right? It's normal. Okay. Alexana? Yeah.
Alexand.
Thank you. Why do I want to call you Alexand Mitchum, everybody? The great-granddaughter of Robert Mitchum, the great actor, Robert Mitchum.
Great.
No, she's
Just
not
one
the great.
great.
You're the great-great?
Just
wow,
one great.
Wait a minute.
Just one great.
You hold your age quite well at being a great. Oh, Lord, help me. I mean, we're going to go on the road and sell those beauty products, I'm sure. Absolutely. But Alexand, right? I got it right.
Got it right.
Alexand. Okay, now I won't mess it up. And if I do, smack me again. I kind of liked it. Thank you. Yeah, well, that's about as much as I get. I don't get any love anymore. Oh, yes. All right. As the mayhem starts here, we're going to be playing some Robert Mitchum movies, and we're going to talk a little bit about old Hollywood and talk about his career a little bit, that your great-grandpa. And one of the things that you mentioned to me before we got started is that you were a little girl. You were still living when he was still living before he passed away.
Yeah, I was 6 years old.
Right. And he was 79 when he died. Yeah. And so you were just a little tyke bouncing on his knee.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you remember those days at 6 years old? I mean, there's not much we can really remember at 5 and 6.
I have about 1 or 2 memories. I'd go visit him in Santa Barbara in his house,
Right.
in his den, and he had an oxygen tank towards the end of his life.
Right.
And so one time he tricked me and made me try it on so he could smoke a cigarette. So I have that memory.
Yes, he was an original bad boy. The one thing about Robert Mitchum is that his whole life was a life of mischievous fun. And sometimes it was a little more than mischievous fun, but he was the kind of guy that kind of was way before James Dean, way before Marlon Brando, way before all these kind of stories. He was the most reluctant star that would have ever become a star. This was not really something that he wanted to do. He just didn't want to work on an assembly line like at Lockheed when he worked. He just hated doing that kind of work, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it's interesting how he got to acting. But nevertheless, do you have that kind of rebel attitude that has that trickled down in through the bloodline and the DNA?
Maybe in the film way. I want to go out there and pursue a bunch of things.
Right.
But not so much in the bad boy way.
Yeah. Well, the stuff he was doing when he was doing it, you could get away with a lot more than you can today, except when he smacked that cop in the nose because he was sitting on a porch or something, he was watching the stars, drinking a beer, and someone thought he was somebody else, some cop arrested him, and then he got in trouble. And I believe your great-grandmother, she lived with you and your family for many years after Robert Mitchum passed away. How old was she?
I believe she was 94, maybe 95.
So you really got to experience your great-grandma. How cool is that?
Yeah, I miss her. She was really cool.
What kind of lady was she? Because it seems in the homework I've done on her, she was a strong lady. She was like the strong, sort of like Mama T, right? Right. But what kind of great grandma was she?
She was fun. We called her Cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
Yeah, because Dorothy's her name, and my dad's other grandma was Dorothy, and so she wanted to be Cuckoo, not Dodo, and the other grandma took Dee Dee.
Right.
So right there with that name, Cuckoo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but she was a strong woman.
Did she ever tell you stories about your great-grandpa as you got older and you could remember them and understand them a little bit?
She told me a couple. One story was when their daughter was born, he was filming a movie, and he was wearing a kilt, a skirt, she would say. And he came running into the room wearing the skirt, and she couldn't believe it. She was laughing, and she thought that was funny. He
was always doing antics like that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, there's a lot of stories about some of the things that he liked to party, he liked to drink, he liked to carouse around and have a good time, especially in his younger days. But that kind of stretched back to when he was a child. I mean, he was on the road as a hobo at 14 years old for a couple of years during the Depression era. And so he was just bouncing around the country via train.
Yeah.
And so he kind of did have that rebel spirit. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a quick interview that was done in 1972. It's about 3 minutes long about Robert Mitchum, because there's a lot of people out there that don't know who Robert Mitchum is, especially the younger generation. If you aren't a film noir kind of person, you really don't know who he is. You know the name, and you know the face the minute you see it. Oh, yeah, I've seen him in 1,000 pictures, and he did a lot of films. And but he was always reluctant to do interviews, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He didn't like the interview process.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he was always almost very difficult. And one of the great interviews I did see when he was on Johnny Carson, he did Johnny Carson because everybody did Johnny Carson. But even Johnny had to really work it. Had to really work something around there. It was wonderful watching the master work with Robert Mitchum, who didn't really want to say anything. I think he did that crazy kangaroo boxing movie at that time, Matilda, with Steven Seagal. Not Steven. I'm thinking Steven Seagal. I mean, whatchamacallit, the actor. I forget his name. Yeah, it'll come to me in a second. But anyhow, he went on the road for that. Yeah, in that respect. So you got that lined up. So this is an interview that an English gent did with your great-grandfather here, Bob Mitchum, in 1972. So let's key it up and go for it when you're ready.
You had a sort of restless childhood, didn't you? I mean, you left home when you were, what, 14, wasn't it?
Well, at first, I think when I was 6, then when I was 11, then when I was 14, rather seriously when I was 14. And finally, when I was 16, I went to California.
Mm. But why? I mean, you dropped out of school.
Well, suddenly I'd come home and there wasn't a place for me at the table, so time to split, didn't it? I got the message, after...
Yeah, they sold your bed. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And what did you do in those days? I mean, were you just sort of hoboing on the road?
Yeah. Just knocking at the back door, asking the kind lady if she had a piece of bread, Never offering to mow the lawn, just dealing with the kind lady.
But why? Why was that? I mean, what were you doing at the time? I mean, what was the purpose behind it?
Well, nothing really, just keep moving. No purpose.
You did, in fact, at one point in your career, you were a fighter, weren't you? A boxer?
No.
Good.
No. No, all this came from being run over by a truck.
Was it a big truck or a small truck? No, you were, weren't you?
Picking up the herd. No.
You?
No, not really, no. No.
Do people ever take swings at you?
All the time.
Yeah?
Not since that last one, though.
What was the last one?
A very good one. It was a low shot.
When was the last time that somebody took a swing at you?
I really can't remember. No, that doesn't happen.
Never happened at all?
I'd like to accommodate you. I could invent something probably, But you're falling back on all that flack fat that talks about that, and which is either true or not true, or true with reservations or untrue. One time, my wife and I were in a restaurant in Colorado, and a fellow came over with a piece of soiled toilet tissue and threw it right down on top of my steak and said, "Sign that." And I said, "Of course," and picked up my fork and ran it right up through his chin, up into his upper palate, bent it over, said, ripped his pocket out and gave him the tab and said, "Take him to the hospital." There's been a dreadful accident here.
That's a good story. I enjoyed that.
True story.
I don't believe a word of it, but it's a very good story.
My wife is right there somewhere. She'll tell you.
Do you always want to be a movie star?
No, I wanted to be Queen. No, I didn't. It never occurred to me. Couldn't make it. I couldn't make the weight.
You have sons also, don't you, who are sort of carrying on in the...
looking for jobs.
Looking for jobs, yeah. I wondered, was there any advice you gave them when they became actors?
Just remember your lines and don't write home for money.
That's all they need to know.
Neither of which they took to heart. No, they do as they will. That's their lives, isn't it? They could have been burglars as long as they don't get... I just told them that, really. I said, whatever you do, don't get caught at it. So, no one's ever caught me acting.
That's a classic. You got me killing my ears there, pal. That's a classic line. No one ever caught me acting, right?
Yeah.
Was that pretty representative of your great grandpa?
His personality.
Heard?
Yeah.
His personality that great grandma told you about. Yeah. He was quite the fun kind of guy. He had a real dry wit about him, but yet it was you felt always that it was true. When he would say something.
He was good with the one-liners.
Yeah, absolutely perfect with those. And the thing about that is, it's kind of hard to do an interview that way with somebody. But once they get rolling, then the really good stories start coming out. Like the one with the waiter or the guy who came over wanted an autograph, and he slapped him upside the head with his foot. I mean, are you kidding me? Can you imagine some Johnny Depp doing that today or something like that? There's a great story about where he when he did get in trouble with the studio with the marijuana thing. Mm-hmm. No, this was the punching thing in the cop. There's a great story that is told, and about when he went before the judge and the RKO attorney said, just settle it, say guilty, pay $10 and be done with it. And so he did, but the judge said, well, you're going to do 180 days on some field out in the middle of LA County doing this, right? And so he said, well, you can't do that because I'm going into the Army. So the next day, the two cops, the ones he busted in the nose, take him down to the recruiting station and made him join into the Army. So, I mean, this is the kind of guy he was in that respect. So when you go to the Santa Barbara house, is it still the same house that he talked about with the jacuzzi right in the middle of the house, or in the middle of the outside porch? There's a big jacuzzi there he talked about.
He had a jacuzzi in his room,
right?
And I'm not sure if it was a different house, but this is just the house I've always known and remembered. It probably was the same house.
Yeah. Did you ever get a chance to go into any of the Hollywood houses that he had?
No, I was too young.
Yeah, yeah.
Or if I was, I don't remember if I was a baby.
So your dad, now, let me, correct me now, because I'm going to mess this up too. Your dad is the son, okay, we have Bob Mitchum and Dorothy, right? And then Grandpa was Chris or John?
Chris.
Chris. Yes. Yeah, John was Bob Mitchum's brother. So Chris, and then Chris had a son who's your dad.
Right.
Okay, now I got it.
Okay.
So is the whole family involved in acting still in the entertainment business for the most part?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them didn't want to do the Hollywood thing, and some are still involved.
Do you find it interesting or harder or easier carrying the Mitchum name?
I do think it's kind of a challenge because in my head, I feel like I have to live up to how great he was.
Right.
So it's kind of a challenge for me.
Yeah. I think that would be kind of a big weight on your shoulders. I think the hardest thing to do would be to kind of relieve yourself of that weight and be you.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the hardest thing to do with families who have lineage to the children and the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren today, is to follow in that footsteps, thinking that you have to be like the great namesake was. Yeah. But there could be really nobody like him.
No, he was him. I just, other people might think, oh, because it's your great-grandfather, this or that. So you just have to be yourself, though, and carry my own legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so now you've got something that you're working on that your dad wrote. Now, tell me a little bit about that.
So my dad wrote a script about Robert Mitchum, his grandfather, about his life and all things before the Hollywood stories. And then he wrote part 2 of the Hollywood stories. So I'm in the process of getting that together and trying to produce that.
Now, what is that about? Just stories that you've been handed down in the family?
My dad's stories of his grandfather.
What kind of stories are in that? Can you tell me a couple that you know?
Well, I thought this was kind of cool. It's not really a story. It was something he said. He said he wanted to be an actor. And, he was working and doing all the other things he was doing. And he told his wife he wanted to be an actor and he was going to go to Hollywood and be an actor. And he did. And I found that really cool. It was cool reading the script and learning about the different things he did from my dad's point of view and all the stories he's heard.
Right.
But I won't tell too much because I want you guys to see it when it comes out.
Oh, okay. So you already got that little piece of cheese at the end of the stick, right? Well, when he was younger and he got the acting bug, from what I understand, that he met your great-grandmother at a rather young age.
Yeah, I believe they were 14.
Yeah, a lot of people started their relationships at that time in the 1920s. They were much younger than we are today. Can you imagine a 14-year-old getting married or a 16 or 18-year-old getting married today? It's a whole different thing. But the one of the stories is that when he met your mother, he told your great-grandmother, that is, he told her that he was going to go to Hollywood, like you said. Yeah. But he also promised her that he would come back. And he did.
And he did. He went back and he got her. And they were together until he passed.
So he had that feeling of honor and respect, and it sort of seems to be the kind of guy that when he said something, he did it. Yeah. And he meant it.
Yeah.
Did you kind of feel that way, understanding the history of Robert Mitchum?
Yeah. He was that kind of guy.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So now his brother, John, went on to be a tremendous character actor. and did hundreds of films, just like Robert did. And then your grandfather was also in the business too. And so tell me a little bit about your grandpa.
He did a lot of movies in Asia and traveled around. So my dad got to grow up around the world with his father doing that. And then my father got into film as well.
Wow.
So it keeps going down. Now it's my turn.
Now your dad, has he done a lot of stuff?
He did a bunch of movies in the 90s.
Right.
I think he did about 40 films.
Wow, that's a lot of films today. For somebody to acquire 40 films today, you're working all the time because the work isn't the same way. It doesn't come at you the same way.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep that going. And it's also hard to make any money at it today, in that respect. But back then it was different. You were hired on.
Exactly.
And your great-grandpa had a 7-year contract with RKO. And here's the interesting thing about that. Howard Hughes, the great billionaire, owned RKO. That's where he made his first wealth out of RKO. Then he went into aviation. But Howard Hughes used to have wild sex with all his starlets. And I mean, that was like, something that you did. And there was one lady, her name was Pam Grier, Pam Grier, I believe. I'll get the name right. And Greta Grier. Anyway, she got on Howard Hughes's bad list, and he was trying to ruin her career. And there was a movie called Cape Fear that he starred in, and that she starred in. And the only reason why she starred in that film is because nobody else would work with your great-grandpa because he had been busted for smoking pot.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to work with him. They were afraid that it would taint their career, all the female lead actresses. But she said, I would do it. And that got Howard Hughes really pissed off because she was under RKO contract. But that became a very, very hit movie, a popular movie. In fact, they redid that movie with Nick Nolte back in the early 90s.
Robert De Niro, I believe, played Bob's part.
Yeah, he played Bob. Yeah, he plays Bob's part. And you refer to him as Bob.
Yeah.
Bob played a detective in the remake of that. Right. So did he ever talk about, did your grandfather or your dad ever talk about some of the runs with the law that he had and how he was able to maneuver his career through that? Because he actually thought he was going to end his career on some of these things.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard the stories. They haven't really gotten that much into it.
Right.
But I know the stories. I do know that Howard Hughes did help him after he got in trouble with that. But maybe they wanted to kind of shelter me from the bad boy parts a little bit.
Right. Well, that's the fun part, though, right?
Yeah, it is the fun part.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So let's play the next thing that we have lined up for Robert Mitchum, and this, I believe, is from. Let me see. We have this lined up. This is the Big Steal. And this is about a military bank robbery where they steal a bunch of money from that is supposed to be going to the military, and it's shot in Mexico, and it's Robert Mitchum in The Big Steal.
About it, Army payroll stolen, X-ray.
Turn around.
You're on the wrong track, pal. Wrong track with the wrong man.
Save it for Washington. We're flying back today and we're taking it with us.
No, we're not.
What are you looking for?
Huh? Well, just a few $100,000.
There's nothing here.
All right, where is it? Darling, I don't think you'll shoot me.
You're taking Halliday's word against mine. The word of a guy you don't even know. You little fool.
Second, that way you won't lose speed.
This is a fine time to give driving lessons.
You really love the way they used to do those old trailers.
I love it. So much cooler than today.
It's the Mitchum man in Mexico.
The woman in hot water.
Yeah, the gorgeous girl in hot water, and they have the half shot of her in the shower, right from like the clavicle right here down. I said clavicle, not the other word. Thank you, but like from here half down. But those old trailers, they had a sense of suspense about them. The new ones are just these explosions and loud music and sound
half
effects.
The time they put the good parts in the trailer.
The best part of the movie is the trailer most of the time. Yeah, absolutely right. So now when you see stuff like this of your great-granddad, when you see stuff like this of Bob, okay, he'd probably reach down and smack me on top of the head. But how does that make you feel?
I think it's really cool, because I grew up in this family, and so to me it's just a family member, and it's cool to watch him do that and everyone think and hear what people think about him. Like you said, he plays these tough roles, and he had that big walk, and so I like watching it. I think it's really cool. It inspires me.
Yeah. When you were growing up, did your friends tease you? Did they know that you were part of the Mitchum legacy?
No, because a lot of people my age didn't really until I got a little older, and they started getting into older films and stuff. Some of my teachers, though, in school, oh, I loved your great-grandpa. And actually, he did a movie called The Red Pony.
Right.
And we read that book in 8th grade and then watched the movie. So then a bunch of people knew, and that was kind of cool.
Oh, so then you became the superstar of school then, right?
Yeah, my teacher was like, wow.
Oh, right. Can I have an autograph?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's wild. It must be really interesting to as you move into Hollywood now with the script that you have that your dad wrote about Hollywood and Hollywood stories. That's going to be an interesting run for you because how people are going to react to your name and who you are. Yeah,
I'm excited, though. I want to take the script and produce it. Maybe more people will know who Bob is after that gets out.
Do you think he's gotten like the short end of the stick as far as icons of Hollywood?
Kind of, yeah. I don't think a lot of people realize who he is until they research and look. He won a Golden Globe for Lifetime Achievement.
Yeah, Cecil B. DeMille.
Yeah,
right.
91, I believe, or 92.
And he was also up for one Academy Award, and that was G.I. Joe, with Burgess Meredith in G.I. Joe, and during 1945, in that time, his first movie was with Mickey Rooney. I mean, this guy goes back, to be part of a cast member of that cast. And it's interesting. What's fun about when you have this kind of folklore in your family and the mythology of this in your family, and you start doing some more research into him and where he came from, you get surprised about stuff. Do you still have family members that really interacted with your great-grandfather? Is your grandfather still alive?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, so he's like an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
He's like a Wikipedia.
I mean, a lot of stories I've heard, but Bob worked a lot too, so he was working a lot. So then you hear the stories, personal home stories, fun things. But yeah, he worked a lot. Right. Clearly, he didn't like to sleep, or he couldn't sleep, so he'd do films. Just kept working. Take naps in the cabs.
Oh, several hundred projects. I know about 110 films.
Yeah, a lot.
Every year he had a new film out for year after year after year.
Yeah.
But that's how it was then. You could really amass because you were under contract and you got paid whether you worked on Tuesday or you worked on Thursday. You got paid and paid handsomely for your efforts. Your family was in the horses, right?
Yep.
Is your family still in the horses?
Yeah,
Anybody?
my aunts love to ride horses.
Right.
A lot of my family. I don't ride horses. I need to get into that. But yeah, my family loves in Arizona, they had a ranch there and would go ride horses.
So, because he had a ranch, I don't know if it was the one in Santa Barbara that you lived, but I know that he had a ranch somewhere in the San Fernando Valley or somewhere in Los Angeles County that he kept all his quarter horses.
Yeah.
And he put a lot of money into those quarter horses. Did your grandfather ever talk about that in terms of what his dad always used to love to ride those horses and the quarter horses? He'd love to go out to his ranch.
Yeah, he would talk about that. And I think that's why my family rides horses. And my aunt used to ride professionally. She would do, I don't know what it's called, horse races or challenges. And yeah, I need to get into that.
Well,
I love horses.
There's a story that they asked a reporter, interviewer asked Robert Mitchum about his horses, because at that time he had a whole stable of quarter horses, and quarter horses are very, very expensive to keep healthy, to keep in shape. You have to work them every day. You have to have full-time employees taking care of those quarter horses. Otherwise, they fall apart because they're the prima donnas, they're the sprinters, they're the quarterback of racing horses, and so he had a whole bunch of them, and he said he spent $1 million. That's
a lot of money.
In the 1960s, $1 million on horses. So they asked him, well, "What did you get from the horses? Robert, what did you get out of it?" And he goes, "Well, I spent about $1 million into those horses, and about the only thing I got out of it was $1 million worth of horse shit."
Yeah. Sounds like him.
Right? That's a quote. Exactly what he said, right? I said, yeah, man, that's the kind of guy. John Wayne and him used to pal around together and drink on Rio Bravo, because he played a drunk sheriff on Rio Bravo, and John Wayne used to pal around with him. And John Wayne said about him, he said when they asked him to do another movie, that they wanted to resurrect the drunk sheriff in another Western, all about the drunk sheriff in Rio Bravo this time. And he said, "No, I don't want to do this. I'm recovering." Right? And so John Wayne said, "Mitch has been recovering ever since I met him."
Yep.
So, he was a hard drinker, hard partying guy.
Yeah, he liked to drink. He knew he could outdrink everyone, so he would drink, everybody would go away, and then he could enjoy himself and his wife and not have to worry about it.
So that's what he just drank his party to sleep, right?
So or to deal with all the people.
He was a private guy.
He was.
He didn't get out much and do the Hollywood star thing.
The Hollywood thing wasn't so much him. He just liked to work, be with the family, and drink.
and once in a while have some cannabis. Yeah. Because he was one of the very few that got caught. Like he said in that interview, don't get caught.
Don't get caught.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we all get caught doing things we shouldn't be doing. Right. Have you ever been caught doing things you shouldn't be doing?
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe once. So you graduated from college.
Yeah.
And you have what's your degree in college?
Education.
Oh well, yes.
Totally different from film, but I had to go to college and make sure film was what I really wanted to do.
You think that's a good thing that you got an education degree, something to fall back on?
I do. Yeah. I believe so, because if for some reason it doesn't happen, at least I have that. Yeah,
that's an important thing for folks to know today, because you've got to eat.
Yeah.
Like your granddad said once, he said, "Oh, this is a great story, and you may have heard of this. He worked a lot with Hopalong Cassidy. Mm-hmm. The guy with the black and the old TV series guy in the B movies. You know Hopalong Cassidy. In fact, that was some of his first work with Hopalong Cassidy. And there was a extra horse rider that got killed. His name was Charlie Murphy. He got killed on set on one of these episodes, these B movies of Hopalong Cassidy. And so your great grandfather was there, and they said, "Can you do the role tomorrow? We need that." He's got a little speaking part. He said, "Well, of course." So the next couple of days went on, and they gave him the hat that the man who got killed accidentally on set, his hat in wardrobe, and the hat had some blood on it. His blood stains apparently got hit in the head by something, and so they were asking, the director said, "Are you all right with the hat?" Because they didn't want to change the look of the part, and they could get away with doing some different shots to keep it to be like the same guy.
Right.
But he had to have the same clothes and the same crooks in the hat and everything. He said, "Hey, look it. Look it. I want to eat. I want to pay my rent.
Yep.
I want to work, so I guess I'm wearing the damn hat."
Yeah.
But that's the kind of guy that he was.
Hard worker.
Yeah. He just was. He had a lot of these little cool little stories. Do you know that when he was he always that way in the private life? Did he have a lot of big parties, or did he?
He had a couple parties I've heard stories about. But he liked to watch game shows.
He liked game shows.
Yeah.
What was his favorite? Do you know?
I think it was The Price is Right.
He liked The Price is Right.
Pretty sure it was that. He liked to watch game shows at night.
Now, why do you think game shows at night?
I don't know. Entertaining. It's just who doesn't like to watch game shows here and there?
The only game shows I liked to watch was I liked Let's Make a Deal with Monty. Monty. Okay.
Not Monty.
No, I was thinking Monty Python, but he just passed away about 5 or 6 years. I like Let's Make a Deal, where they dress up in all clowns, and then I like the Gong Show. You know.
I never saw the Gong Show.
You never saw the Gong Show?
No.
Oh my goodness, you got to Google search the Gong Show. That's for sure. All right, let's play another clip of Bob Mitchum here, and we'll talk a little bit more and bring you some more stories about Bob Mitchum and see what we got hooked up here. I think I've got. This one. This is one of my favorite movies. He plays an Irish character in this movie, and he's kind of a gangster. And yeah, what? What's that?
Go upstairs. I have to make some calls. You know, sometimes I think I'm married to the president or something.
It won't take long. I just got to do this.
Call the president. Call the Pope.
May I help you, sir?
May I have 10 for 10?
Yes, how'd you like it?
10 single.
Barry, check out 7.
Hey. You owe me 10 more guns. I need them fast. When do I get them?
I don't know. Look, I got you the first batch when I said, and I was ahead on the dozen. You know, these things take time.
Time is what I haven't got. I'm getting pressure. I gotta see the man tomorrow night. I need those guns.
I can't get them for you by tomorrow night.
Son of a bitch, I gotta have that stuff fast. I got a long ride to make tomorrow night. I need the stuff with me when I make it.
No way, no day, no condition. I told you, I get quality. These things take time.
Tomorrow night.
You aren't buying loaf of bread, you know. I got a thing set up that works pretty good. Dependable stuff that's not going to get anybody in trouble. I'm not going to screw it up just because you people got hot drawers. You'll have to tell them that.
You tell them.
Look, this stuff will come. What's the big emergency?
Look, one of the first things I learned, never to ask a man why he's in a hurry.
I can get you pieces by tomorrow night.
Is I told a man
that you can depend on me because 6 pieces. I got more now, but I promise I'm going to stop.
Now, one of us is going to have a big...
I don't know, I like that.
Another
Buying from the same lot as somebody else.
If anybody's going to have a problem...
Makes me nervous.
Well, I understand.
You don't understand like I understand. I got certain responsibilities.
But look, I told you I understand.
I'm getting old. You hear?
Did you get my name in the business?
Most of my life hanging around crummy joints with a bunch of punks, drinking the beer, eating the hash and the hot dogs, and watching the other people go off to Florida while I'm sweating out. I'm going to pay the plumber. I done time when I stood up, but I can't take no more chances. Next time, it's going to be me going to Florida. You listen, you're still a kid. And you come out, you go around and say, look, I'm a man. You can take what I say, and it happens. I go through. Well, you're learning something too, my friend, and I advise you to learn it right now. When you say that, when you get me out there all by myself on what you say, you better be right there in back of me. Because when you say it happens, it's going to fucking happen. If it don't, you got your thing caught in a zipper. You know, just now, I don't want any talk from you and any shit from you. I want 10 guns. I want it tomorrow night. I'll be right there with the money, same place where we were before. I'll be there with the money. You be there with those goddamn guns. Because if you ain't, I'll be looking for you, and I'll find you, too. Because I ain't the only one that's going to be looking for you, and we know how to find people.
All right, look, I have to go to Rhode Island tonight, and I'm going to be back late. And I gotta see some people late tomorrow afternoon. Can I meet you someplace early where I can get free by, let's say, 3 o'clock? Just listen, man, you're coming up faster than we said, you know, and I got other people to see, too.
Tomorrow afternoon's okay?
Yeah. Look, have the money, huh? I work this fast, I'm gonna need the money fast.
No sweat. I'll have the money. No sweat.
Anyway, you know, that is menacing. I think that's one of the best pieces or monologues I've seen.
Yeah. Okay. You can't catch him acting.
Right.
He was being real. You could feel it, I feel like.
You always felt that about his presentation, that it was actually real to him.
Yeah.
You know, and he always said the two things an actor needs to do is show up on set, learn your lines, and hit your marks.
Exactly.
You know?
90% just being prepared.
Absolutely. And the thing about that was not only just being prepared, he could deliver the lines with such menacing passion, which that's why I picked that piece, because
his eyes and that. Yeah, I was just going to say the eyes were really makes it feel real, which is the way film should be, an actor's job.
When he passed away, you were alive.
Mm-hmm.
You were 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
There was an actress that was there. It was a very private funeral. They spread his ashes out in the ocean. And with your great grandma, they did that too when she passed away in her 90s. And your great grandma has a great quote that she said, "I always knew that I'm living up. I want to be spread in the ocean because I want to make sure the promise is complete that we'll be together on Easter Island forever."
Yeah, and they are.
You know?
Yeah, it's so great.
What a cool romance.
I know. I love their story. They were together their whole life.
And they had tough times.
Well, yeah, everybody has tough times, I feel like. But they made it.
Do you think the people then had... what is the difference to you in your generation and with people like that have these long marriages? I mean, you know, he was not a prude guy.
No.
And, you know, yeah. And she left him and went back east because he got in their younger marriage, but she also came back and saved his life.
Yeah, I think they just knew they were meant to be together. That was true love, and through ups and downs, they made it back together, and that's why she was so strong. She was a strong woman, and she needed to be a strong woman to be married to a man
like
that career and that life. Yeah,
yeah, especially at that time,
right?
When being a movie star was everything that we fantasize about today about a movie star.
Right.
In every aspect of it. I mean, they could get away with stuff that the common person couldn't get away from.
No, they didn't have social media and paparazzi and everything, so it was a lot more private. But, you know, it was still a hard life. It's hard to be married into that life.
Did you know that when he was when he was recruited into the when he actually was escorted into the Army, that he was put in the medical corps, the Army Medical Corps, and you know what his job was?
What?
To check for VD. For 8 months, he checked men's genitals. Oh my God. That's what his job was, and he speaks about that in one of the interviews I was reading, and he said. That was I should have took the 6 months in jail in county jail instead of that, right? That's what he says, because for 8 months he had to check that.
That's so
that
funny.
was worse, right?
Yeah, that would be worse.
That's what he said. He goes, "Man, I got out of there as fast as I could."
That's
what a job,
funny.
Right?
Yeah.
The troops coming back, you know, from the war, and he has to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, when he was a kid, he was working on a chain gang.
Yep.
And what was talked about that? Did your grandfather ever talk about his dad working on a chain gang?
A little bit. They mostly talk about all the stuff he did, and then Bob went off and trains and boxing and all different things like that.
Right.
His fighting.
He liked to fight?
Yeah.
He liked to box?
Yeah.
He did. I didn't know that.
He liked to fight. Maybe that's why the love-hate on the knuckles is so good. From the movie Night of the Hunter.
Oh, we're going to play that. Yeah, he has a love-hate. In fact, let's play that right now. It's right here. This is, don't start yet. This is the movie. He really wanted this movie badly. So he did everything he could to get this movie. Because the character was an insidious kind of traveling preacher that was not really a good guy. right? And always trying to get
he
women's
was not a
money,
good guy.
women's money from them. That's what his con was, right? And so let's watch this. What's this from? What movie?
Night of the Hunter.
Night of the Hunter. This was a big movie.
Big movie. Yeah.
Big movie. This really launched him into another level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
The man!
Good morning, ladies.
I do.
Why, you're Miss Cooper, I take it.
It's about that John and that Pearl.
Oh, them poor little lambs. To think I never hope to see them again in this world. Oh, dear madam, if you was to know what a crown of thorns I've borne in my search for them stray chicks.
Ruby, go fetch them kids.
Oh, madam, I see you're looking at my hands. Would you like me to tell you the little story of left hand, right hand, the tale of good and evil? It was with this left hand that old brother Cain struck the blow that laid his brother low.
Them kids is yours?
My own flesh and blood.
Where's your missus?
She run off with a drummer during prayer meeting.
Where's she at?
Down the river somewhere, Parkersburg, maybe Cincinnati. One of them Sodoms of the Ohio River.
She took them kids with her?
Oh, heaven only knows what unholy sights and sounds them innocent little babes has heard in the dens of perdition where she dragged them.
Right funny, ain't it, how they rode all the way upriver in a 10-foot John boat?
Are they well, Miss Cooper?
A sight better than they was.
Gracious, gracious, you are a good woman, Miss Cooper.
How you figuring to raise them two without a woman?
Oh, the Lord will provide. The Lord is merciful. No, what a day this is. And there's little John.
What's wrong, John?
Come to me, boy.
What's wrong, John?
Didn't you hear me, boy?
John, when your dad says come, you should mind him.
He ain't my dad.
No, and he ain't no preacher neither. Just march yourself yonder to your horse, mister. March, mister, I'm not fooling.
All right. But you haven't heard the last of Harry Powell yet. The Lord God Jehovah will guide my hand in vengeance. You devils. You whores of Babylon. I'll be back when it's dark.
So that was the movie that launched him into a completely different realm of superstardom.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Yeah,
I think everybody should see that movie.
What do you like about it?
I like how he plays that role because he's playing a preacher that's really crooked and he's scary.
Yeah, he is really, once again, he has that menacing kind of ability that we saw in the Irish gangster movie, Coil. That movie there, he always was able to generate
Maybe it's
that.
the Irish blood we have.
It's
Scottish Irish.
You Scott Irish? I'm
Mitchum.
Scott Irish too. Yeah, Mitchum. That's right.
Irish last name.
Or ORR is my mother's maiden name.
Yeah.
So Scott Irish too as well. Well, yeah, that makes sense why you like to drink and fight. Or did I just piss off the whole Irish population in Los Angeles? That's probably what I just did. Absolutely. So as we kind of come to the end here of the show, we're going to play one more clip with your granddad, Bob. I would have loved to meet him. My grandfather worked, as I said, at Warner Brothers for 51 years. And at that time, John Wayne was contracted to Warner Brothers. And so the actors, they would be lent out from studio to studio because they were all getting paid the same anyway, whether they worked at Warner Brothers or Universal or 20th Century. They would just, that's how they did it. So it was the work. So there's a story that my grandfather talks about when on Rio Bravo, because my grandfather was a truck driver, Teamsters, and he was on the lot for 51 years. He drove all the heavy equipment. That's what's behind the scenes forever. And he did Rio Bravo. He drove the truck out with all the cameras and the lights and stuff, and then would hang around and move all the equipment and all that stuff. And just a real quick story that he said John Wayne and Bob Mitchum would always, after the day was done, their day just began.
Right?
Their day just began, right? Those two fellas, right? Absolutely. So when he passed away, it was a private funeral. The only person of superstardom or star quality in terms of a major entertainment person was Jane Russell.
She was very close. She used to our family. I used to go to her house as a child, and she'd cut me up little apples. She was at my parents' wedding. That was cool to watch the video with the old stars in my parents' wedding video. But yeah, I love Jane. She was a wonderful woman.
Yeah, she was Howard Hughes' first big smash hit at RKO, right?
Yeah.
And they became really great friends, and they did several movies together.
Yeah,
and that's all he wanted there, just a family and her.
Yeah.
And when your mom passed away, she had a very private funeral too.
Yeah, she did.
Or, I mean, your mom, your great grandma.
Yeah.
Great grandma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic stuff, man. Just fantastic stuff. All right, we're going to play this last video here, and so tell us a little bit about your project and what you got coming up again.
So I have the Mitchum film that I'm going to be putting together to produce that, get that going. I'm also writing my own script right now, which is cool, and I'm getting into acting. So I'm going all over the film industry, checking it all out.
All right. Well, you've got the great Mitchum name, and we're going to end with Robert Mitchum right here. And it's just something that is about being cool. On the Jesse T Show. Hit it.
What do you want?
Yeah?
Mr. Baylor, the man just went up heading toward your office.
Forget it.
Want to see somebody?
I just saw him, thanks.
I love the part where he does a right cross into the guy and knocks him clean out with one punch.
Yeah, he was a fighter. He was somewhere in Europe, I believe it was Europe, at a bar drinking, and somebody was talking badly, and he kept hearing, "That's Bob Mitchum, that's Bob Mitchum." So Bob turned around, went right in the face, knocked the guy out, and the guy happened to be a world fighter, so it was all over. Bob Mitchum knocks out so-and-so fighter. Yeah.
He could handle himself,
right? Yeah, he totally could.
Yeah, I bet he passed some of that down to you, huh? All right. Thanks a lot for checking in. Alexandre.
Yes.
I got it right.
Thank you so much.
You know how I got it right? I remembered you. Well, you told me while we were watching that, but I also had to remember Alexandra, so I just cut off the GRA and say Alexandre. Yeah. Very beautiful name, very unique. Alexandre Mitchum, everybody. Thanks all for coming in and having some memories about your great grandpa and your dad and your grandpa. And now you're going to carry on the torch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here I go.
Here she goes. Young, hot-looking babe. Yes. That's right. Woo! And talented to be. We look forward to the Bob Mitchum story. What a good one. That's one that's been overlooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to get the word about him because he was quite the character, quite the guy. And thanks for sharing some stories with us. Huh?
Thank you for having me.
It was fun.
That was fun.
Kind of cool. All right, everybody. Tomorrow we got Monet Swan coming in. Talk about the Women's March in downtown L.A. and Tom Bradley's 100th birthday, as well as it looks like maybe on Saturday we may be hooking up with Burt Reynolds. So we'll be bringing you some of that stuff too here on the Jesse T Show. Good to have you along with us, Alexandra. Alexandra.
No drop.
Exactly. Alexindi. Lexi. I think I need Bob Mitchum to hit me.